Is there more trouble brewing between the mega powers at the 1989 WWF Royal Rumble, which took place on January 15th, 1989 at the Summit in Houston, Texas? The big story heading into what would be the first Royal Rumble match in its current iteration was what's going to happen with Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. It's every man for himself. What's going to happen in this particular Royal Rumble match? We're going to get to that shortly, but this is our full 1989 Royal Rumble review. We start things off with the Fabulous Rougeaus and Dino Bravo teaming up, and they have Jimmy Hart and Frenchie Martin in their corner to take on the Hart Foundation and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. This is a 2 out of 3 falls match. We get the Hosses in to start things off, and you kind of have Neidhart and Bravo going round and round here, but Hacksaw comes in, and he's taking it to Ramon. Brett comes in, gets a near fall on a small package and a sunset flip. Something tells me Brett spends a lot of time in this match, given what you would want to see going up against the heels, and that's kind of what happens. We eventually get a 6-man brouhaha here as the heels retreat after that. But then, out of nowhere, after some shenanigans from the Rougeaus, Ramon pins Brett to take the first fall here. So Brett, going into the second fall, gets a little bit of offense in, another sunset flip from him, but no pinfall here. So the heels stay on the advantage. Boston Crab on Brett's, and then we get some awesome heel work here from the Rougeaus as Brett makes the tag, but Ramon comes in prior to distract the referee. So Brett just getting flat out dissected here, but manages to kick out of multiple pins, so that's getting the crowd going. Inverted atomic drop finally allows Brett to make the hot tag to Hacksaw, and Hacksaw just runs wild here on Ramon. Bravo takes a beating here too, and Jacques Rougeau. Then we get the double catapults over the ropes by the Hart Foundation, and Hacksaw pins Ramon for the second fall. However, we get a little double team action here on Hacksaw. He will not be held down. Scrum breaks out between these guys. The referee gets occupied in the bad guy's corner, and that allows the notable good guy, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, to do what is, of course, a good guy move, and that is bash Dino Bravo with the 2x4 to give Brett the pin and the win in 15 minutes and 42 seconds. A solid opening match here. Very entertaining when you consider all the personalities, and thought this was pretty good, all things considered, given, kind of the 2 out of 3 fall stipulation. And you got to see a lot of Brett here, who was clearly on his way to being one of the top stars in the company, but thought Hacksaw played his role well, and the Fabulous Rougeaus and Dino Bravo, that's a good pairing, so I enjoyed this for sure. All right, backstage, the $1 Million Man draws his number for the 1989 Royal Rumble. He's not happy about it, so he pulls Slick into the mix and tries to buy the Big Boss Man or Akeem's number. I love that. I love that they always were pushing the idea that $1 Million Man could buy whatever number he wanted, which makes sense from a story perspective. Honky Tonk Man draws his number, and he throws it down on the ground, so Honky's not happy. The Bushwhackers draw their number, and they are absolutely thrilled. I've never seen two people more excited than the Bushwhackers after the draw of their number. Let's see if that plays out in the match. Bad News Brown draws the number for him. He laughs and says it's good news. Good news for bad news. Jake Roberts draws his number, and he says that he hopes that Andre the Giant is in there when he gets in there. And then we have the Rockers draw, and they simply say, good luck. So I liked, and I wish they would do this more in the current era, just drawing the numbers and having people react to the draw. That is such a suspenseful thing you can do, and I enjoyed when they did this more regularly back in this era. All right, our second match is Judy Martin versus Rockin' Robin for the WWF Women's title. Sensational Sherry on the mic before the match. She challenges the winner. And now Sherry is on commentary, and she's making fun of Robin and all this other stuff. They go back and forth for a while, but the crowd not really into this match all that much. It really did not get much of a reaction here. Sherry kind of says it all when she's just kind of shouting for somebody to win the match, and Robin flies off the top here to retain at 6:24. Probably not the best match you're going to see in this era, but, crowd reaction is a lot of that, and you just weren't getting a huge reaction from the crowd in this particular one, but Rockin' Robin still the champion, and that's kind of your movement forward there with her as the champ, and as we said, Sherry challenging the winner. So, all right, backstage, Sean Mooney is with Slick, as he tries to backtrack about selling his number to DiBiase. And he says, I haven't seen Ted DiBiase in a month. Incredible stuff from Slick. So Mooney goes savage and shows the clip from earlier of Slick talking with DiBiase. Just fantastic interchange here between Sean Mooney and Slick. And good stuff with him trying to also keep this from the boss man and Akeem, because Slick doesn't want it to come out that he may have sold one of their numbers, which lessens potentially their chance to win the Royal Rumble. So thought this was really good stuff here with that. All right, in the ring, one of those segments that you absolutely remember if you kind of remember this particular show. It is Super Pose Down time with Rick Rude and the Ultimate Warrior. This would be the beginning of a pretty special feud, all things considered, between these two. Easily one of Warrior's best feuds, I think, ever. Maybe it could be the same for Rick Rude if you look back at the list of feuds he had. So lots of posing here. It's a pose down, folks. Of course, there's lots of posing. And the Warrior's ab routine is just hilarious. Can't say I would be able to do this, but it's just funny to watch this man go through this entire ab routine here. And it does the job because it really starts the hatred between these two. So jokes aside, it really does start to escalate things between Rude and Warrior. All hell breaks loose when Heenan sprays the oil in Warrior's face, and then Rude nails Warrior with a workout bar from behind, and so it begins. That's how things would kind of kickstart from here between Rick Rude and the Ultimate Warrior, leading to, again, a pretty good feud in 1989 between these two. All right, next match, King Haku with Bobby Heenan versus Harley Race, and the world wants to know who's the real king here. Is it Haku or is it Harley Race? And now, after Race got injured, it was Heenan replacing him with the one and only Haku, and this is pretty much a brawl as you would expect. Back and forth we go. Haku getting in some work to send Race to the outside. Lots of suplexes thrown around. Race gets a near fall. We get both men back on the outside. Haku backdrops him onto the mount, and then Haku bashes Harley Race's back into the apron, which is followed up by a pile driver on the outside from Harley Race. Things picked up pretty quickly here between two guys who don't mind just beating the hell out of somebody. Reverse neck breaker from Harley Race gets another 2 count. So these guys are going after it here. Haku starts the chops to take back over. Then he goes up top, misses the flying headbutt, and then Harley Race misses a flying headbutt of his own. And hey, this is actually much better than I was expecting. But Haku finishes off Harley Race with a thrust kick at 9:01. Crowd wasn't really into this either, to be honest with you. But I thought this exceeded expectations. I thought this was pretty good stuff and kind of maybe an underrated, I don't want to say gem necessarily, but underrated match. This may be one you think just kind of thrown on the undercard to be there, but these two guys, again, never had a problem just beating the hell out of somebody, and I appreciated their effort to do just that to each other in this particular match. So we'll see if this makes the recommended match list. We'll find out. All right, backstage, we get about 20 interviews here, hyping up the Royal Rumble. As you would expect, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant appear to be the massive favorites sort of heading into this match. They also play up the possibility of Hogan and Savage having to throw each other out. Some foreshadowing here, if I do say so. All right, we've made it to the 1989 Royal Rumble match, and we're going to go through every single entrant, and this will be a lengthy review because we got a lot to get to in this one. All right, Axe draws number 1, and wouldn't you know it, Smash draws number 2. This was a great way to kind of start the concept of the match itself, knowing, again, this is much different than what we saw kind of in the 1988 version the first time around. So I like this, kind of pushing that the two teammates start things off. And WWF has used this trope many times over the years, but I still like it and think it kind of plays up the anything can happen type nature. And these two were badasses, so they just started going at it. Like, they're not going to sit there and hug. They're not going to do any of this. They're trying to win the match, and that's exactly what we expect from Demolition. How could you not love these guys? Andre the Giant is in at number 3. Naturally, Axe and Smash kind of go after Andre. They send him to the mat. Mr. Perfect is number 4, and he starts nailing everyone. What a group of 4 to start this match. And then Andre tosses Smash out. So Smash has been eliminated. Ronnie Garvin comes in at number 5. And remember, so much for kind of the big heel turn on Dusty Rhodes, a Great American Bash the previous summer, because Ronnie Garvin is here, and he helps the others in tying Andre in the ropes. Garvin and Perfect exchange some chops here before Greg Valentine is in at number 6. Everyone's still trying to eliminate Andre, but that ain't happening at this point. Andre then eliminates Ronnie Garvin with a hip toss, so Garvin's out of there. Jake Roberts in at number 7, and remember from earlier, Jake said he was hoping Andre would be in there. He gets his wish. He and Andre are starting to throw down here. Valentine tries to get involved, but Andre has no time to sell that, baby. He's going at Jake, and Andre keeps choking out Jake with a boot and steps on him. Here comes the newly bald Ron Bass. Remember, he lost the hair versus hair match to Brutus Beefcake. And Andre nonchalantly just kind of throws out Jake. So we didn't really get a lot here, even though they were kind of teasing something huge. But yeah, Andre just kind of throws him out of the ring, and that's that. So in at number 9 is Shawn Michaels. Mr. Perfect tosses Axe out, so Demolition's out of there. Not much of a match for these two, despite starting things off at 1 and 2. Perfect then sends Michaels over, but he hangs on to the ropes, and we get the same spot with Perfect going over, but hanging on to the ropes. You couldn't love that any more than with these two, perhaps. Bushwhacker Butch is at number 10, and remember, he was thrilled at his number earlier. Number 10, I don't know if I'd be just completely thrilled at that, but hey, Butch is different, perhaps. All right, meanwhile, Jake is back, and he's got Damien in hand, so Jake's been eliminated, but he doesn't care. He slings the snake into the ring, and Andre eliminates himself to get the hell out of Dodge here. So eventually Jack Tunney would ban the reptiles, including Jake Roberts' snakes, but not here in 1989. Honky Tonk Man is number 11. He wasn't happy, so I could go with that, number 11. Then Tito Santana charges in after Mr. Perfect at number 12. Bad News Brown into the fray at number 13. Bad News also said that this was good news. I don't know how number 13 is necessarily good news. You're still, probability-wise, not in a great spot to win the Rumble. Jesse with a line of the night here. This is great. So Bad News is in at number 13. And Jesse just says, this is a normal Saturday for him. So, just a stroll in the park for Bad News Brown fighting 10 other guys. Outstanding stuff from Jesse. Honky Tonk Man gets thrown out by someone. I missed who it was who eliminated the guy. But the crowd loved it. Marty Jannetty is in at number 14. We get a double drop kick from the Rockers, and that sends Ron Bouse out of there. So he's gone. Here comes Randy Savage at number 15. And this man not even taking his sunglasses off while he starts to go at Bad News here. Arn Anderson in at number 16. That's where Valentine gets tossed out by Savage. Good interaction here between Shawn Michaels and Arn Anderson, which we know tag team-wise, those two teams would have some matches here before eventually the Brainbusters are out of there again. Then we get Savage and Arn teaming up to eliminate Shawn Michaels. So those two have sent Shawn packing here. Tully Blanchard is in at number 17, so back-to-back here for the Brainbusters. Perfect and Savage start going at it, and you know what? I say just clear the ring, let these two fight for the next 30 minutes. Randy Savage and Mr. Perfect. It's one of those feuds I feel like we never really got a lot of between those two, and I just think about how great that could have been between Perfect and Savage. And I mean just to a higher extent in the WWF at this time. But, all right, Marty Jannetty kind of hangs on here, finally gets pushed out by the Brainbusters, so that's going to expedite things a bit, as we know, with the tag team division. And here comes Hulk Hogan at number 18. And he comes in, and he just immediately tosses out Mr. Perfect. So shades of maybe knowing what people would want a year later at the 1990 Royal Rumble. We'll get to that. But, I mean, he just made very quick work of Perfect here, and it was just absolutely nothing. So Hogan throws out Perfect right away. He runs wild. Tito Santana gets thrown out somewhere along the way here. Bad News almost throws out Hogan, and Savage does nothing to save him. Bushwhacker Luke is your number 19 entrant. Butch gets thrown out by Bad News. Hogan is now just taking it to Arn and Tully. Coco Beware comes in at number 20. Hogan eliminates Coco within a minute here. Ain't got no Birdman going over on the Hulkster, brother. Then Hogan tosses out Luke. So Hogan, which you would expect, it's 1989, has been the star here over the past little bit. The Warlord comes in at number 21. And as he's coming down the aisle, Hogan eliminates both Arn and Tully with a double clothesline. So all we have left here is Hogan, Savage, and Bad News at this point, as the Warlord comes in at number 21. Warlord steps a foot in the ring, and then he gets tossed by Hogan in 2 seconds. So we know that would last for a while in terms of WWF really playing up the all-time record. Warlord being thrown out the quickest of anyone. That would eventually get broken by someone, from my memory here. But yes, Hogan just takes out the Warlord. So we still only have 3 here. But Hogan goes over, and remember, it's only Hogan, Bad News, and Savage. And Hogan goes over, and he tosses out both Bad News and Savage, who are over there occupied by each other. And Savage is pissed as Hulk Hogan stands alone here, and we've still got several more entrants to go. Savage gets back in, and he pushes Hogan repeatedly. Here comes Elizabeth, and she gets in the middle of them. They continue to bicker at each other while Jesse pushes the idea that Hogan is an egomaniac. Jesse, incredible. Savage offers the handshake at the end, and all is well yet again with the Mega Powers. We'll see about that. As the Big Boss Man makes his way in at number 22, Hogan gets some offense early, but Boss Man takes over and he even spits on Hogan at one point. Here comes Akeem at number 23, so Hogan finds himself in a bit of a predicament here, and Hogan throws them into each other, and he slams Akeem, so the crowd's on their feet for that. Boss Man picks up Hogan, nearly tosses him, but it's a double noggin knocker to the towers. But then the Big Boss Man and Akeem manage to eliminate Hulk Hogan, and this won't fly for the Hulkster brother because he pulls Boss Man out, and then Akeem goes out to help his best friends here in the Big Boss Man. So keep that in mind. Brutus Beefcake is in at number 24. He's here to save his own best friend in Hulk Hogan. Beefcake destroys everyone here, and then Hogan tries to get back in the match. That's not how this works, Hulkster. Since he can't do that, he decides to pull the ropes down, and that causes the Big Boss Man to be eliminated. Great heel work by the company's top babyface here. But we know this would be a trope with Hulk Hogan in these Royal Rumble matches. This guy may have been the biggest babyface in the world outside of the Rumble matches, but anytime you had one of these matches and he didn't win, it wasn't pretty. He would do anything it took to try to figure out how to get his, the comeuppance for whoever he thought was to blame. So, again, this would kind of begin the trend of Hogan being a sore loser in some of these Royal Rumbles. Red Rooster comes in at number 25, and we really don't have much happening now, as you would expect. After this whole drama that we have with the Mega Powers and then Boss Man and Akeem, not much going on, as really just Beefcake and Rooster working over Akeem. The Barbarian's in at number 26. Big John Studd comes in at number 27. Hercules is in at number 28. Things have really slowed down at this point. Rick Martel is here, and he's number 29. And again, I have to note that the heat has sort of really evaporated here after the Hogan Savage and Twin Towers stuff, which shouldn't be that big of a surprise because that was the hottest thing going at the time. And then who is number 30? Well, it is Ted DiBiase. So clearly the $1 Million Man snuck a few bills in Slick's pocket to get this number. We just don't know if it was the Boss Man or Akeem's as of right now. So at this point, you probably are looking at this and would think there's only 2 possible winners here. It's probably either going to be Ted DiBiase or Akeem. That seems to be the most logical explanation. Let's see how that goes, because Ted DiBiase throws over the Red Rooster. He didn't have a chance. Ted DiBiase and the Barbarian, they dump Hercules and Brutus Beefcake at the same time. Neither one of those two are winning this thing. Then we get a little showcase here from the Barbarian, who I always enjoyed. Gets a little flying headbutt and all that, but Rick Martel drop kicks him and sends him over the top. And you didn't think the Barbarian was going to win. So your final 4 here are Akeem, Ted DiBiase, Big John Studd, and Rick Martel. Well, we know Martel's not winning it because Akeem catches Martel and he's out of there. So we're down to 3. And that's where you get, as we said, kind of the trademark spot that WWF love to use in these Rumbles. We have Akeem and Ted DiBiase going to work on Big John Studd, and then we start getting that same formula here as the 1988 Royal Rumble. The heels make a mistake, and that's when Big John Studd sends Akeem over the top, and then Big John Studd just squashes Ted DiBiase for a bit, and finally tosses him over for the win at 1 hour and 4 minutes and 53 seconds here for the 1989 Royal Rumble. Big John Studd had been gone for a while in the WWF. I mean, years. But he comes back, he wins the Rumble here with a lot of star power, and he even eliminated two of the hottest heels in the company at the time, in Ted DiBiase and Akeem. So if you were going to pick Big John Studd, hey, they decided that Vince McMahon said, hey, we're going to send the crowd home happy. We got to have a babyface win this thing. And it wasn't going to be Hogan, wasn't going to be Savage, because you had to play up the sort of dispute between those two. And I do think it made a lot of sense. Hogan could not win this thing. If you were going to further the feud and make the Mega Powers what it was, you needed to have, as I mentioned in the previous one at Saturday Night's Main Event, you needed to keep building up Akeem and the Big Boss Man as two worthy adversaries, which they became. And I said I still don't think they get enough credit for that. So I appreciated the fact that Hogan or Savage did not win. I still think there was probably a way to give it to Akeem here, or even Ted DiBiase. But they gave it to Big John Studd. The fans are happy because the heels didn't get it, and that's that. I'm not really that thrilled about it. I'll say that, even in hindsight. I thought this would be a great opportunity if you wanted to do something with Akeem or DiBiase here, but they went with Big John Studd. And like I said, the other downside to this match is that really, once the Hogan and Savage stuff is done, the crowd was done. I mean, they just did not have as much interest in this match, which, again, you can't really blame them for that. But, you know, you had all that stuff going on. Hogan, once again, kind of a hypocrite here in terms of getting thrown out and just trying to somehow screw the heels out when he gets eliminated fair and square. Yeah, so you have some of that probably plays into it if you really want to grade this as a match. But overall, still pretty enjoyable. I don't think this is going to rank up there as one of the all-time Rumbles or anything like that, but it's perfectly serviceable, I would say. And, you know, I'm going to say this as we go into our recommended matches and all that. Like, it probably is not necessarily a recommended match. It's a recommended part of the match where, like, you have to see the stuff with the Mega Powers to keep things going with the story, which we know is about to explode here as we get into the next installment of Saturday Night's Main Event. So that's where you got to, you know, kind of watch that and see how it plays out. I thought it's probably still the match of the show. I thought the six-man tag to start it was pretty hot as well. But, you know, I would still say the Royal Rumble is probably the one. If you're going to pick one to watch from this, it probably is this one, just all things considered. When it comes to the impact this match had, not necessarily the winner. It didn't really have much of an impact at all with Big John Studd winning, but how they got there with really those four in particular, with the Mega Powers and the Twin Towers as well. That's going to be the biggest part that you have to, you know, kind of go back and take a look at. So there you go. MVP of the show, I'm going to give it to Randy Savage. I thought Savage was still pretty great in his role here. Not an extended amount of time in this Rumble, but I still thought Savage was pretty excellent. So there you go. Aside from the women's title match, I mean, overall, is this worth watching? I mean, everything else is pretty entertaining, I would say. The women's title match just never got there in terms of the crowd reaction or anything like that. And like I said, really the crowd does start to go down a bit after the stuff with the Mega Powers in the Rumble, but it did advance the tension between those two, and so I think there's some fun to be had if you want to go back and watch the 1989 WWF Royal Rumble. So you guys let me know what you think. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well. Appreciate you, this journey down the road of nostalgia here, back in the golden era of the WWF. Lots more reviews here on the channel, lots more videos, audio podcasts, all that stuff. Check it out, and let me know your thoughts and what you remember and your favorite memories from the WWF Royal Rumble 1989.